I'm going to use a simple example to demonstrate the way I think, which makes it possible to see and unlock hidden potential hiding in plain sight. Here are two bottles that appear totally unrelated to each other. One was used to store milk, the other was used to store tomato ketchup. Now we apply thinking outside of the box, which is a term that I have an issue with, and I'll explain that later. If both bottles are empty and found on the street, they would be viewed as litter. This is because a single item of litter is seen to be of negligible value. It's basically worthless. This gives us our first point. These empty bottles are of negligible value. Yet, when we examine the bottles, they are both of a complex form. They're created from crude oil through a long manufacturing process. They have very precise curved forms. They have exact screw tolerances to fit the cap firmly and securely in place. In essence, given the raw material, we couldn't create one of these in the kitchen in a few minutes. This complexity gives us our second point. The creation of the bottles is a highly complex and thus extremely expensive process. So from our first 2 points, we have the bottles, which are of negligible value, are made by an expensive process. Yet this process must be economically viable in some way to cover the cost of manufacture. Otherwise, obviously, the bottles would not be made. Therefore, the expensive process must produce millions or billions of these negligible value items, the cumulative value of which covers the cost of manufacture. So, this will lead us to our third point. The machinery must be expensive and produce millions or billions of these worthless bottles. Added all up, will cover the cost of creating the complex bottles. So if the machinery is complex, expensive, and it produces millions or billions of bottles, then it also follows that the machinery must be very rare, since obviously there wouldn't be one machine per bottle, as we've already deduced. And this rarity also explains the machinery being expensive. So this becomes our fourth point. The machinery producing the bottles is extremely rare. Now, if the machinery is rare and expensive, these machines will be made by a small number of companies. Therefore, to either cut the costs of these expensive machines or because they are designed by the same person, there will be some common parts between these machines and thus common parts between the bottles that they produce. So this leads us to our fifth and final point. It is reasonable to expect that these two bottles would share common parts even though they appear totally unrelated. So as we see, there is a perfect seal demonstrated by the water not leaking. So these two bottles have identical screw threading, allowing the bottle caps to be interchanged and making a watertight fit. If you truly think outside the box, then you would realize it doesn't need to be a box that you think outside of. So my preferred, more accurate term is thinking outside of closed containers or systems. Thank you for watching, and please feel free to like, share and subscribe.